Few stories ignite the imagination quite like the mysterious disappearance of Sir Francis Drake's expedition. One of the most daring maritime journeys of the 16th century vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but whispers and unanswered questions. What really happened out there beyond the known maps and myths? Join me as we unravel the secrets of the vanished expedition, uncover clues, and explore the theories that continue to puzzle explorers nearly 500 years later. Because some mysteries are too intriguing to stay buried forever. Sir Francis Drake's legacy. Sir Francis Drake's impact on history extends far beyond his daring voyages and naval exploits. It shapes perceptions of exploration, maritime dominance, and colonial ambitions. Often regarded as one of the most skilled sailors of his time, his circumnavigation of the globe was not just a feat of navigation, but a symbolic act that challenged the dominance of other European powers like Spain and Portugal. His navigation skills, combined with his strategic prowess, helped establish England as a major maritime force, laying the groundwork for future naval dominance. This legacy is embedded in the subsequent expansion of England's navy and colonial ambitions, which would eventually stretch across the Americas, Africa, and Asia. Drake's influence intertwines deeply with the rise of mercantilism and commercial enterprise. His expeditions opened new trade routes and secured valuable territories, fundamentally altering economic dynamics for England. The looting of Spanish ships and colonies, while controversial, underscored his role in asserting English interests in the Atlantic and beyond. His success instilled confidence in English colonial ventures, inspiring future explorers and privateers to venture into uncharted waters. In particular, his role in disrupting Spanish supremacy on the seas created lasting friction and competition that defined European diplomacy for decades. Beyond the tangible achievements, Drake's legacy also reverberates culturally and mythologically. He became a symbol of daring, resilience, and national pride. Stories of his journeys, embellished over centuries, transformed him into a legendary figure whose exploits captured the imagination of generations. Monuments, literature, and popular culture continue to celebrate his adventurous spirit. Nonetheless, his legacy is complex, mixed with admiration for his bravery and critique of his role in piracy and colonial exploitation. Yet, his influence as a pioneer who challenged the status quo remains undeniable. In the modern context, Sir Francis Drake's legacy often prompts reflection on the nature of exploration itself, its benefits and its costs. While he expanded geographical knowledge and helped establish England's maritime prominence, his ventures also contributed to the displacement of indigenous peoples and the start of long-term colonial conflicts. Contemporary assessments tend to focus on this duality, examining how the spirit of discovery was intertwined with acts of conquest and economic exploitation. Still, the enduring fascination with his voyages underscores their significance in shaping not only the course of history, but also the ongoing dialogue about exploration, power, and legacy. Preparations for the final voyage. During the lead-up to Sir Francis Drake's final expedition, meticulous planning and logistical arrangements dominated the efforts of those involved. Unlike many of his earlier ventures, this journey was marked by a heightened awareness of the immense risks and the necessity of thorough preparation. Navigators, educated in the latest maritime charts and celestial navigation techniques, pored over detailed maps, plotting courses that balanced the lure of uncharted waters with the realities of peril at sea. Supplies were carefully calibrated, with careful estimates made for food, fresh water, and medical provisions, all packed into sturdy ships designed to withstand the rough Atlantic and potential encounters with hostile territories. The ships themselves underwent rigorous maintenance and refit. Wooden hulls were inspected for damage, caulking was renewed, and sails were reinforced in anticipation of heavy weather. Captain Drake, renowned for his hands-on approach, personally supervised some of these refurbishments, ensuring the ship's seaworthiness. Armaments were also upgraded, cannons and muskets were tested and loaded, as the expedition could encounter threats from rival European powers or hostile natives. Supplies extended beyond the tangible to include detailed navigational instruments, from compasses and astrolabes to early versions of cross-staffs, which were essential for precise longitude and latitude calculations in an era when precise navigation could mean the difference between success and disaster. Furthermore, the crews selected for this voyage were chosen with care, emphasizing experience, resilience, and loyalty. Drake sought seasoned sailors familiar with Antarctic and Atlantic conditions, as well as specialists like surgeons, cartographers, and botanists, who might document newfound lands and gather valuable intelligence. Training focused on emergency procedures, such as repairing hull breaches or managing fires aboard ship, which were common dangers at sea. Planning also considered the need for alliances or negotiations with indigenous peoples or other maritime powers along the route, prompting the crew to carry diplomatic gifts and enough provisions for potential interim stops. Every detail, from the color and design of the flags to the procedures for signaling distress, was scrutinized, revealing the meticulous nature of Drake's preparations for what he knew might be his most daring and uncertain voyage yet. The dangerous journey across the seas. Sailing across uncharted waters during Drake's expedition meant confronting a myriad of perils that tested even the most seasoned sailors. The vastness of the ocean, often unpredictable and unforgiving, posed constant threats. Sudden storms could appear without warning, whipping up towering waves that threatened to capsize ships and sweep crew members into the frothing depths. Navigational tools, while advanced for their time, still fell short in maintaining precise courses over the open sea, especially when cloud cover or storms obscured celestial navigation. Mariners relied heavily on the stars, compass, and rudimentary charts, methods that could lead astray if weather or environmental conditions interfered. The treacherous currents and hidden reefs in Drake's route added another level of danger. Many ships found themselves stranded or battered by the relentless pull of powerful oceanic flows. Avoiding submerged hazards was a constant challenge, and even slight miscalculations could result in shipwrecks. Encounters with whales and other large marine animals, while sometimes awe-inspiring, could also be perilous if a large creature collided with or damaged the vessel. Supply shortages further compounded the risk. Without immediate access to fresh provisions or ports, crews faced malnutrition, scurvy, and heightened vulnerability to the elements. Storms frequently dispersed ships from each other, leaving groups isolated and vulnerable to the unpredictable wrath of nature. In addition to environmental threats, the risk of disease and illness from prolonged exposure to cold, damp conditions was ever present. Sailors endured exposure to salt, wind, and rain, which contributed to ailments like respiratory infections and skin diseases. Chasing after sightings of land or signs of safe harbor often meant pushing their ships into areas where storms brewed, or where navigation was even more uncertain. The mental strain of such a perilous voyage, combined with the physical dangers, created an atmosphere of constant tension on board. Despite the crew's resilience and expertise, every voyage carried the possibility of catastrophe, rendering the entire expedition a perilous gamble against the might of nature. Storms, sickness, and missing ships. During long maritime expeditions, unpredictable weather patterns have historically posed formidable threats to crews, especially before modern forecasting and navigation technology. In the case of Drake's voyage, storms in the open ocean were a persistent danger, often arriving suddenly with fierce winds and towering waves. These storms could wipe out entire ships in moments, tossing vessels like toys in the tumultuous waters. Heavy squalls would reduce visibility to near zero, making navigation treacherous and occasionally leading to ships running aground or colliding with hidden reefs. The destructive power of these weather systems not only endangered the ships but also strained the morale and physical resilience of the crew members, who had to contend with flooding, damage to sails, and broken masts in addition to the relentless storm conditions. Sickness was another relentless adversary that decimated ships' crews during such expeditions. Prolonged exposure to cold, damp environments, and limited fresh provisions created the perfect breeding ground for deadly ailments. Scurvy, caused by a lack of vitamin C, was particularly notorious, crippling sailors with swollen gums, fatigue, and eventually death if untreated. Other diseases like dysentery and typhoid spread rapidly in cramped, unsanitary conditions, often wiping out large portions of the crew before they could reach their destination. Medical supplies aboard ships of that era were rudimentary, relying on herbal remedies and basic first aid. Castaways or those incapacitated by sickness not only diminished crew strength, but also threatened the success of the entire voyage. The mental toll of constant illness, combined with the physical suffering, often led to mutinies or hopeless despair, further complicating survival at sea. The mystery of missing ships largely arises from the perilous nature of these expeditions. Despite meticulous planning, ships would sometimes vanish without a trace, lost in the vast, treacherous expanses of the ocean. When ships disappeared, it was rarely due to a single cause. Storm damage, sickness outbreaks, or navigational errors often contributed to these tragedies. In some cases, ships were wrecked against hidden rocks or hidden reefs caught by storms, leaving only debris to be recovered later. Other instances involved ships straying off course and becoming stranded or sinking in uncharted waters. The absence of modern tracking technology meant that crews had few ways to communicate distress signals, leaving families and sponsors to piece together clues from wreckage or survivor accounts. This combination of natural hazards and the limitations of the era's maritime technology turned many expeditions into ghost stories, with ships and crews seemingly vanishing into the vast unknown, fueling legends and speculation for centuries afterward. The last sighting of the expedition. The final moments of Drake's expedition remain shrouded in mystery, but the last reported sighting offers some intriguing clues. It was during a brief encounter with a passing ship that the crew of Drake's vessel was first observed in what appeared to be relatively good spirits, charting a course along the coast of South America. Witnesses from a Spanish ship noted the presence of a relatively well-maintained vessel, with the crew actively engaged in navigation and sail adjustments. This sighting was crucial because it suggested that Drake and his men had managed to survive their initial hardships and were still capable of maneuvering through treacherous waters. Not long after that sighting, reports from local fishermen and coastal inhabitants began to emerge. These accounts varied sharply in detail, but generally described a ship matching Drake's description moving along the shores of what is now the southern tip of South America. Some reports claimed the vessel was seen close to port, while others suggested it was heading further south, possibly into uncharted waters. The inconsistency has fueled speculation that multiple ships or groups may have been involved, or that Drake's crew might have split up to explore different routes. Despite these discrepancies, the recurring theme was that Drake's ship was still active in the region and not immediately lost at sea. As the days and weeks went by, sightings became ever more sporadic and less definitive. Communication with local communities was often unreliable due to language barriers and the lack of official record-keeping at that time. The last credible sighting occurred via a local fisherman known for traveling along the coast, who claimed to have seen a large ship with distinctive markings matching those of Drake's fleet. He described it as anchored briefly near a remote cove before departing swiftly, heading into an area where no further reports were ever recorded. This moment stands out in history as the final confirmed observation, leaving subsequent fate a matter of speculation. In the absence of clear documentation, historians and explorers have pieced together fragments of whisperings and partial accounts. It is widely accepted that after this last sighting, Drake's expedition either faced severe adversity, such as a storm, shipwreck, or hostile environment, or simply vanished into the vast, unpredictable waters. The surrounding silence and lack of concrete follow-up evidence have cemented the event as one of the most compelling enigmas in maritime history. The final sighting remains a crucial piece in the puzzle, offering hope that the crew might have pressed on in secrecy, or that they succumbed unseen to the vast, unforgiving ocean. Theories about the disappearance. Many hypotheses attempt to explain what happened to Sir Francis Drake's expedition, which vanished without a trace during his voyage into uncharted waters. One prominent theory suggests that unpredictable weather or natural disasters could have swept the ships off course or caused wreckage along treacherous coastlines. The Pacific Ocean is known for sudden storms and unpredictable currents. Historical accounts mention how early explorers often faced storms that could overturn ships or lead them into dangerous reefs. In Drake's case, it's conceivable that a sudden gale or typhoon might have devastated his fleet, leaving no survivors or visible wreckage. The vastness of the ocean and the minimal technology available at the time mean that such disasters could easily have gone unnoticed by the world at large, especially if the ships sank in remote or uncharted areas. Another significant line of thought revolves around the possibility of conflict or hostile encounters. Some theorists speculate that Drake and his crew might have run afoul of indigenous groups or rival explorers, leading to their disappearance. Considering the circumstances of the era, encounters with hostile tribes or rival European powers could have resulted in violent confrontations. If the explorers were captured or killed, their ships might have been destroyed or abandoned in the chaos, with no records surviving of the events. Evidence for this is sparse but compelling. Archaeological finds sometimes hint at violent encounters in regions Drake might have visited. The idea that the expedition was lost during a skirmish, either with locals or other Europeans, remains plausible, especially in uncharted regions where banditry and tribal conflicts were common. Another hypothesis reminds us of the limitations in navigation and communication at the time. The ships could have simply become lost due to navigational errors or inadequate charts. Early explorers relied heavily on dead reckoning, celestial navigation, and rudimentary maps, which could easily lead ships astray. In regions with little or no accurate mapping, a fleet might have veered off course and become trapped in dangerous waters, such as reefs or shallow shoals. Over time, they might have run out of supplies or been forced to abandon ship. There are examples in history of ships disappearing because they followed false currents or navigated into perilous areas, only to be discovered centuries later as shipwrecks. The mystery endures in part because some ships may have simply coasted into obscurity and been lost to the depths without any record of their final moments. Finally, some modern theories entertain the idea that the ships might have deliberately been abandoned, or that Drake's crew staged their disappearance for reasons unknown. While more speculative, these ideas gain traction from the secretive nature of some missions and the political climate of the time. If the expedition encountered insurmountable difficulties, such as disease, mutiny, or threat from competing powers, some crew members or Drake himself might have decided to disappear intentionally to escape danger or pursue a different course. Evidence for such scenarios is scarce, but intriguing, especially given the lack of definitive wreckage or historical confirmation of a shipwreck. The legacy of the vanishing expedition continues to fuel debates, and perhaps someday new discoveries will shed light on this enduring mystery. Recent discoveries and investigations. In the past few years, exploration teams and historians have revisited the mystery surrounding Sir Francis Drake's final expedition, driven by a combination of advanced technology and new archival evidence. Sophisticated underwater sonar scans and remote-operated vehicles have scoured the rugged coastline and seabed near the known landing points of Drake's fleet. These searches uncovered several anomalies, including submerged structures that could be remnants of ships or encampments from the late 16th century. The discovery of partially submerged casks, possible artillery fragments, and rudimentary tools suggests that the site may hold clues to Drake's fate that remained hidden beneath layers of silt and coral for centuries. In addition to underwater surveys, historical archives from various nations have provided fresh perspectives. Declassified documents from Spanish colonial records and English private correspondences have been examined in recent years, revealing conflicting accounts of Drake's intentions and movements. Some researchers highlight discrepancies between official reports and local legends, proposing that Drake may have escaped capture or demise through clandestine routes. These investigations have led to the hypothesis that parts of Drake's expedition may have survived longer than previously believed, possibly establishing hidden enclaves along the coast or in inland regions that remained undocumented. Furthermore, recent expeditions have focused on the search for physical evidence of the expedition's final moments. Archaeologists have combed through coastal caves, exploring their potential as temporary shelters or hideouts used by Drake's crew during their tumultuous retreat. Finds such as old charcoal deposits, ancient weaponry, and pottery fragments have correlated with the period of Drake's last known activities, adding weight to theories that some members of the expedition may have survived and integrated into local populations. Innovative dating techniques bolster these claims, providing a more layered understanding of the timeline and the possible survival of survivors. Finally, the focus on data from indigenous oral histories has gained prominence. Multiple descendant communities along the coast recount stories handed down through generations, describing strange ships, unusual encounters, and mysterious figures during that era. These stories, once dismissed as folklore, have now been taken seriously by some researchers, prompting a re-evaluation of the expedition's broader impact. Combining scientific data with these living narratives provides a richer, more nuanced picture of what might have occurred during Drake's last voyage, an ongoing story that continues to challenge and inspire modern explorers. The legend that survived. Centuries after Sir Francis Drake's fleet vanished into the Pacific during his legendary circumnavigation, stories persisted that kept the myth alive. Known for his daring explorations and combative spirit, Drake's expedition was surrounded by tales of lost treasure and hidden islands, fueling countless legends. Among the most enduring themes is that Drake's ships, or at least remnants of them, might still be concealed on uncharted islands or submerged beneath the ocean's surface. Over time, explorers and treasure hunters scoured the Pacific, fueled by rumors and partial maps handed down through generations, yet definitive proof remained elusive. What keeps this legend alive is the tantalizing possibility that hidden clues exist just beyond modern discovery. Some stories suggest that Drake's crew may have concealed valuables on remote islands to avoid Spanish forces, or that ships were deliberately sunk to hide treasures from hostile powers. These ideas gain momentum due to reports of strange sightings or artifacts found on Pacific islands that seem to match the era's craftsmanship. The legend morphs through time, blending fact with speculation, boosted by occasional finds of old coins or shipwreck debris around coral atolls, magnifying the idea that somewhere, buried deep, lies a piece of Drake's lost empire. The narrative also feeds on the romantic image of the elusive adventurer conquering the vast ocean and leaving behind a trail of secrets. Popular stories tell of sailors who claim to see ghostly ships or hear mysterious voices echoing on deserted islands where Drake's vessels supposedly sunk. These tales persist despite the lack of concrete archaeological evidence, creating an aura of mystique that persists in popular culture. The legend gets passed down through folklore, literature, and even modern media, which emphasize the daring and mystique of the sailor who defied the odds and left behind a puzzle that still teases historians and explorers alike. In the end, what survives isn't just the idea of lost gold or sunken ships, but a broader sense of adventure and mystery. The legend of Drake's vanished expedition symbolizes the eternal human desire to uncover the unknown, an odyssey that continues to inspire explorers, historians, and storytellers. Whether or not buried treasure waits beneath the surface, the story persists because it embodies a daring spirit that refuses to be extinguished, an invitation to seek, to wonder, and to imagine what lies hidden just out of reach. As we wrap up our journey into the mystery of Drake's vanished expedition, it's clear that this voyage was more than just a quest for discovery. It was a testament to human curiosity and resilience. The true fate of Sir Francis Drake's fleet remains elusive, shrouded in mystery and intrigue, but what's certain is how it continues to spark our imagination and inspire new generations of explorers. If this story piqued your interest, stay with us. There's so much more to uncover about lost expeditions, legendary explorers, and the hidden histories that shape our world. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. We'll be diving deeper into forgotten stories and uncovering the secrets that history tried to hide. Thanks for joining us on this adventure. Your curiosity is the real treasure, and first look forward to exploring more mysteries with you soon.